is Henrik Fett. I'm co-founder and visual effects supervisor at LOOK VFX. LOOK VFX is headquartered in Los Angeles. We have an office in New York and one in Vancouver. Have been around since '97 and do mostly feature work, even so we do also some TV work. Black Swan is a wonderful example because it's one of the films that we're very proud of, that is very much along the kind of work that we really love doing, which is getting on the project very early on. We've been on Black Swan, I would think, from pre-production till finish a little bit more than a year and a half, maybe even, from the early conversations with Darren Aronofsky, the director, who we've worked with in the past. Touched almost all of his projects in one way or another. So there was an existing relationship, and there was a really nice collaborative approach to the movie prior to getting into production. It's also an example of a movie where there are some effects that are really outstanding and easily visible and easily disseminated as visual effects, and others that you would ideally, and feedback that we've gotten, don't see as visual effects. We've done quite a bit over 200 shots for the movie, and the general assumption, feedback that we've gotten, is that everyone recognizes the big transformation at the end as a visual effect, but many of the ones in between that were very subtle really didn't read as such, which was the hope that we had and the task at hand. But yeah, a wonderful project that kept us on our toes. We know that Darren is an extremely challenging, I mean it in the best sense of the word, director who can drive you to close to insanity in production, which when you later on watch the project really pays off, because the end product is outstanding. I mean, it's obviously a subjective view of ours, but we're big fans of his work, and if you work in an environment and you're really invited into that creative process, it's much easier to hit that wall and go beyond it, you know, in hour 16 at any given night when you work on the shots. You know that the end product will be something that you'll be proud of. We do films like this one and others of that kind out of a passion. Yes, we're running a business, and knock on wood somewhere, successfully so far, and you know, we've been around for a while, and it works. But we also take the luxury and the flexibility to take on projects that may, from a purely business standpoint, not be as attractive as others. Black Swan being an example. It's very challenging to create the kind of effects and put the amount of quantity of work into a project like Black Swan, given the budget that they have. So you gotta step beyond the purely looking at numbers. What happens then, since, I mean, you wear two hats, you wear the artistic hat and you wear the business hat. And in my situation, thank God, having my business partner Mark, who we can kind of play off each other. Sometimes I will be more the cautious one and say, you know, this is all wonderful and we love doing this and pushing this and bringing it to the next level, but we also need to think about our bottom line, and sometimes it's vice versa. So I think you need that. I think you need, if you're purely doing these things by yourself, I think the danger of getting lost at either end of those things, either in the artistry, which unfortunately, as experience tells us, has cost quite a bit of businesses to not be around anymore. Because like you stated and we've talked about in the past, is once you're in it, if your heart is really that of an artist and you're driven to create something that you're proud of and that the director is happy with, then it is almost impossible to draw the line at some point. You know, you basically find yourself doing all of that, and at the end you're looking at your bottom number, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't compute. And if that's the case and you find yourself doing that once or twice, it could easily cause you to be one of the shops that are not around anymore. So it's crucially important that it's a balance between the two things. And I think it's a very long-winded answer to, there are projects where we stretch a little bit more, and there are others where hopefully we don't do that and we don't have to do that. And it's something that, having the capacity we have now and the pipeline that we have now and the amount of work that we have in the shop, we have the flexibility to do that, and I'm very happy about that. And that's one of the things that makes me happy to having been able to build Look VFX to where it is now, that we can do these things and we can go a little bit beyond what maybe from a purely business standpoint would be smart to do. Let me maybe do this. Generally I would right away jump to the big ending, you know, the transformation and the feathers, and I think there was lots of talk about it already, and presentations were given, and that is in itself it was a gigantic undertaking. One shot that we have not focused on quite as much, but was probably by far the most challenging shot in its realm that we've ever done at a facility, is the tracking shot of the tattoo on the back of Nina. It's the transformation from the tattoo in the love scene. Basically, we only had small little tracking marks to begin with on a bare back, which is moving quite a bit, with a camera that's moving, and the whole thing shot in 60mm. So most of the scenarios that you would try to avoid as much as you can for a tracking shot came into play. So I would really say, we were challenged, we were excited about it. There were moments along the way where we slightly concerned, and we were extremely happy and pleased with the result. It went all the way from trying the general approaches to tracking software, to hand tracking, to a combination of that and painting. So if you've seen the scene, the outcome is quite astonishing. So that was an example from Black Swan, where, like I mentioned, I think it was kind of a exceptional situation. Another movie that we finished recently, Limitless, or that has been in the theaters recently, we helped create a shot sequence that we called, or Neil called, fractal zoom, which fractal zoom he called it because it's basically different pieces of geometry that you can move through. The idea was to play, to really visualize how you have an infinite view of the environment that you're in. You're not limited by physical distance, you're not limited by focal length or any of that. So literally you can move completely flexible through environments without any end to it. So to that degree we had to really come up and did a lot of R&D, and we had to develop a camera rig, or assemble a camera rig that allowed us to shoot parallel plates with using different lenses at the same time, be able to nest shots within each other. It's been done before, but most of the time when it's done, it was done with stills. It was very crucial that since this played in New York and it's a hustle and bustle on the streets, that we have the real live action footage that we go in between. So we created this rig that allowed us to really shoot parallel at different lens lengths, and then move from one into the other and make it an absolute seamless fractal zoom. Very challenging with a nice outcome. Not what traditionally you would think of as previs, meaning that you're contracted by a studio to create a previs for the show. We do our own internal previs. So when we're contracted or asked to tackle a certain kind of shot or sequence, we generally previs that for ourselves. share that with the creative of the show if we feel that that is beneficial. It took us very long to make the step to open another facility. We started in LA, like I mentioned, in '97, and always had the idea it would be nice to be in different locations, to be able to really cater to the creative community in that location. I interact with them, they see us, they can interact with us, and technology really has helped us tremendously with that. So that made it possible, that made it easy or easier. Nevertheless, there are challenges. Clearly, you know, it's different if you sit there at a table with someone or if you have a video conference going. But it allowed us. The benefit is so tremendous. It allowed us to service filmmakers in Canada, service filmmakers on the East Coast, in LA, be there, be present. It's hugely beneficial. People, which is crucially important. Can't stress that enough. So we're lucky enough to do that in both locations now, both additional locations, New York as well as Vancouver. And then also really the technology that has so immensely gone forward in regard to connectivity and allowed us to have high-speed connections, not only high-speed in the traditional sense, but we've gone through different iterations. We had Tower Stream, we have dedicated lines, we have the ability to really kind of grab things from his servers that are doubled up as well, but they're also the exchange is seamlessly, and the speed is not an issue anymore, which in the past it was, as we all know, and the courier had to take firewire drives and send it back and forth, and that's all a thing of the past, thank God. So it could be little things like we have these rather sizable flat screens in our offices where we see each other all the time, so standing lines of video conferencing where you basically can walk up and can look into the other office and chat with each other and talk with each other, and it was really important for us to be able to do that, to have that kind of characteristic, what we believe Look really is all about. We are in business, very true, and we need to make money, and you and I talked about it at length, but we're doing it because we're having fun what we're doing, and we're doing it because we're able to surround ourselves with people that we really enjoy being around. So I don't want to have a facility in New York just to have a facility in New York. I want to have a facility in New York where I know the people who work there, I see them, I interact with them, they see us, they can interact with us, and technology really has helped us tremendously with that. So that made it possible, that made it easy or easier. Nevertheless, there are challenges. Clearly, it's different if you sit there at a table with someone or if you have a video conference going. But it allowed us. The benefit is so tremendous. It allowed us to service filmmakers in Canada, service filmmakers on the East Coast, in LA, be there, be present. It's hugely beneficial.